Hey everyone, this video is going to go over some quick tips for your project. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire example here. I just want to use it to give us a visual. So let's go ahead and get started. One thing, make sure you follow the instructions and have all components of your projects. So just as a reminder, there are 6 sections, and then some sections might be 1 slide, some sections might be 3 to 4 slides. So make sure you look over the project requirements closely. There's also a rubric posted in Buzz, so make sure you're taking a look at that as well. So the biggest thing I noticed as I was talking with you and going through everybody's projects over the past couple days is that sometimes what we did was when we had our theme statement, we did a good job coming up with those theme statements, but then when you gave your thematic evidence, you didn't necessarily show how it directly connected back to your theme. So, for example, for this theme statement where I stated loyalty is power and the greatest threat to someone's power is disloyalty that stems from a person or group being marginalized, I want to make sure the examples that I give of thematic evidence really target this specific idea of power, that loyalty is power, and that the greatest threat to power is when people are not loyal and they feel marginalized. So that's my first tip, is to, as you're doing your thematic slides, to make sure you tie everything back to that theme statement. Now, for the real world connection, something I was noticing is that people were connecting events instead of specific ideas. So, in the example that I gave everybody, so in the Lion King example, what I said was I connected the idea of the animals and lions feeling marginalized and then uprising against the powers that be, Scar and the hyenas. And then I connected that to what's going on with China and Hong Kong, trying to have more independence from China, and how people are protesting in the streets. So what I did was I focused on the idea that people are being marginalized, and when people feel marginalized, they will often stand against the oppressors. And then also, I talked about how those in power will often try to silence those that don't have power. So that's an idea, right? So I'm talking about power still. So you want to make sure you do that instead of just linking to events. So, for instance, when I was talking with someone yesterday, there was an assassination in one of the books, and then this person was connecting that to the assassination of Lincoln. Now, those are 2 events, and instead of just focusing on the events, maybe to make that stronger, that person could have focused on like the motives behind the events and what causes somebody to take extreme actions in both instances, instead of just saying like these 2 events connect because they're both assassinations. Also, I really, really, really want you to try to find a current connection. So I know some people ask me about historical connections. If at all possible, please try to find a connection to modern society and what's going on in our world today. So look through the news, look through contemporary and current music, look through things that are going on right now. If you absolutely cannot find a current connection, reach out to me. Maybe I can either help you or say, okay, if you really are struggling, then we can focus on a historical example. All right. And then this part was easy. Pretty much everybody got this. You're just linking it. You're wanting to make sure you're linking whatever you're talking about in the connection, like a story about it, a video about it, and you're linking that on the 3rd slide in your connection. All right. Now, the character development, I also had some questions on this. A big thing with character development is you want to make sure you're picking one character and you're tracing how they evolve in terms of the big idea or theme. So in my case, my theme was circled around power. So I traced the development of Simba in relation to power. I named the stages, so I named it ignorance, avoidance, and acceptance of power. If you don't want to name the stages, you do not have to name the stages. The big thing here is that I want to make sure I'm tying each stage back to the idea of power that I discussed in my theme, and the character's understanding and how the character evolves in terms of that big idea. So if I'm reading a story and it's about innocence and loss of innocence, what I would want to do is I would want to say I'm talking about a character that loses innocence throughout the story. I would want to talk about the innocence maybe that they possess at the beginning of the story, how they begin to lose their innocence towards the middle of the story, and then my last stage might be how they understand and how they view their loss of innocence by the end. So if you have trouble figuring that out, make sure you contact your teacher and reach out so they can help you with that. All right. The last section is going to just focus around your personal review of the book. So you read this book and you have a better idea of what the book is about. So in the first slide, you are just going to say reasons why it should be added to the curriculum. So just a list, maybe it's entertaining, maybe there's interesting character development, maybe there were numerous themes in the book that you thought were good. Awesome. You're going to then go to the next slide of reasons why it shouldn't be. Maybe there was a lot of vulgar language and you don't think it would be appropriate for school. Maybe it was meant for younger students. So maybe you think it would more suit like middle school students instead of high school students. Whatever your reasons, all you need to do on these two slides is list on one slide, list the reasons it should be added to the curriculum, and in the other slide, list reasons why it should not. And then your final slide is going to be your review. Now, I use thumbs up, so I said 3 thumbs ups out of 5. You could use anything you want, any rating scale. Maybe you do popcorn kernels. Maybe you do it out of 10 instead of out of 5. This is your call. You can do it over any, you could use any scale you want here. And then you are just giving a review of the book, talking about whether or not you believe it should be added to the curriculum, but ultimately giving an overall just perspective on the book and what you thought about it. All right, those are my tips. Make sure you're reading over your presentation. Also, make sure your presentation is organized in a way that makes sense and that it's visually appealing. So there is a section on your rubric that's going to give you points for professionalism. So if your slides are kind of all over the place and it's hard to read, or maybe you chose a font that you can't really read and you have just random colors everywhere, you might lose some points there. So make sure it's aesthetically pleasing and that the organization of your project makes sense. All right, that's all I got for us today. I will talk with you soon. See ya.